Hello everybody and welcome to the review vlog for Psycho-Pass Season 2. To be honest, this season was quite bad. It was really quite bad. And it really got me annoyed. Like, it honestly did. I was quite angry at certain points in the show. But that is more due to their missed potential more than anything. Because they really did bring up some really quite good ideas, some really quite interesting concepts, and yeah, they certainly had inspiration and they had ideas that were being built on the previous season, but the execution of the story is just bad. It's obvious that they were trying to make it a bit more generally appealing by making the action the main focus, and that's honestly the sure, it looks quite nice. Like, the action isn't bad, but that's not why you come to Psycho-Pass. You don't advertise the first season of Psycho-Pass with, like, it has cool action. I mean, sure, it has really nice action scenes with a lot of also quite gory and disturbing bits to it, but that's not the selling point. And it looks like they were really trying to push that as the selling point this time around, which is honestly just annoys me because it just feels like they missed a lot of potential there. Like, you could easily just cut out all the action and just like really all quickly skip over those and just focus more on the interesting side of things, more of the character studies, more of the just psychological studies, the more of the sociological studies of the inherent possibilities of this system and the possibilities of, like, one of these interesting things that they brought up was the fact, like, that the government or the civil system themselves could have been staging accidents, staging possibilities for other systems to be tested, and that could be really quite interesting to see those kinds of accidents happen, so that people are inspired to trust the system even a bit more, because trust is the essential factor behind the civil system, because it works better the more you trust it, you know? So that is such a shade of gray that would be really good to I really I want them to talk about that, because it's I mean, holy crap, that is such a possibility, but they just glossed over that. And I am so disappointed by that. Now, the other really big idea that they brought up was the Psycho-Pass of a collective, which actually is also perhaps even better. And I'm gonna talk about hive minds a bit later, but before I get too caught up in just disappointment and anger and frustration, let's talk about the season just in general terms. The animation and the art style are quite similar to the first season. There are minor differences, mostly in the way that they have focused more on action and making the shots a bit more fast-paced and making the scenes switches quite a bit faster. But in general, the art style is almost the same as in the first season, which is it's good. And of course, their art animation is still really quite nice. They definitely just knew where to put all of their money in. Um, but what I do actually kind of miss was the lack of any kind of a lot of interesting shots. Now, they did have some really quite cool cinematography techniques used with some specific shots and scenes, but not so much as in the first season, where they really used the fact that it's an anime, that it doesn't need to follow even the laws of cinematography in real world to create some really quite unique and interesting shots. But that is, again, also kind of the downfall of the story. Of course, the voice actors are those who are returning are still quite nice, and yeah, I don't have much to say about the voice actors. They are quite good, I'd say. They are still probably the best part of the. They are perhaps the best part of the show, which is kind of regrettable considering that, yeah, good voice actors are key, but they are not something that can easily carry a show, if at all. The music design is still actually really quite good. Like the opening song is really freaking good. The ending song is not bad, and the music in between is okay. The music that they use in the show itself, it's generic, but it works. So, they do have some really quite a bit above average songs. So it's not like it's a complete botch of a season. So, and at the very least, they brought up some interesting ideas. Then let's talk about characterization and characters because um, I was originally thinking about that I would be kind of annoyed that they made Tsunemori quite a bit more badass. You know, she's a bit more solid, a bit more held back, restrained, very mild mannered, and very, well, badass, I suppose. But honestly, just looking at how the first season ended, that kind of development is just completely fine. It's not out of character for her to be like that, but rather it's just an evolution of her character, which is, fine. It's character development. Although we didn't see that, but we saw the reasons for it. We didn't see a gradual change that would have happened between the seasons, but we know why that happens, and it's reasonable to assume that that's logical. That's not the problem anyway. And of course, we do have quite a wide variety of characters. So they did have a lot of unique and new characters. And one thing that I actually really have to applaud this show for in this season was the use of characters and their backgrounds. The characters' backgrounds come into play all the time, and they are quite wonderfully used, and they are one of the most key story points as well. That is really good. It's done really quite well. Just that's probably the best thing about the story, and that's regrettable. Okay, maybe the best part of the story is the fact that they brought up some really good ideas, but But yeah, I suppose we should talk about the overall story though. Like, I'm not gonna gloss over the characters. Like, they are all quite fine and reasonable. Now, I was kind of annoyed by the that manager, that head of the I can't remember the name of that organization, but that police department, pseudo police department. I was annoyed how she was toying with Tsunemori, but it was brought to my attention and noted, and after a few discussions, that it does make sense for her to be like since she was acting nearly independently from the rest of the civil system, it makes sense for her to be like that. So in that way, I'm not gonna like immediately just say that that is just ruining the series. It's just that kind of like I prefer when antagonists have motivations and reasons. And well, so yeah, I do like that, and I do understand that her motivation of toying with Tsunemori and that other senior officer, and her son's tendency to play with Tsunemori as well. But honestly, those are just explanations. Yeah, they're crazy and insane. Of course, they want to toy with people, and that's kind of inadequate. But then we get to actually one of the greatest additions in this season, which was actually Kamui. Like, it's really quite something when the antagonists are in both seasons are really quite good, and though they are comparable and they have similarities, they are very different in so many ways. And I absolutely love Kamui. Like, I really like him, and he was probably the only thing that was pushing me forward in this season, because he was really quite unique, and he had some interesting. Now, I do have a bet. I had to have a really big of problem with this, in the fact that they missed some potential here. But the explanation that they gave why he wasn't picked up on the sensors was actually quite good. It was really good in my opinion, and that it tied into his motivation and the general overarching plot of judging the Sibyl system quite well, and I like that. I like that it provides a lot more opportunities and possibilities, but they did not have time for to explore that, and I'm so annoyed by that because they really tried to do it well. If they had like 5, 6, hell, if this season had as many episodes as the previous one, they could have done a quite a bit better job because this felt really rushed. But I'm just really kind of more annoyed by the missed potential here. But at the very least, that I really still do like Kamui, and he's very, very close, if not surpassing Makishima in most aspects, in my mind. Though the execution was far better with Makishima. Okay, and of course, I would have to talk about the missed potential. Now, some general problems that the season had in this season had was the fact that they didn't really show a lot of the gap. Like they really get high tension moments, high action and mystery scenes all the time. Like they didn't show scenes of levity, scenes of mundane life, and the scenes of interesting technological equipment. Again, that might be due to their time problems, but still, like in the first season, they had that wonderful like it's a wonderful scene because it's so mundane of Tsunamori just going to the internet, and it was a good scene. It was a crucial scene in many aspects, and in this season they had nothing of that sort that would explain a bit anything about the characters in their everyday life and just about the technological advancements and just show the technology and this kind of high-tech society just in general. Sure, they did show scenes of the enforcers' quarters, which were really quite nicely suited, and they did have some technological equipment. And yeah, sure, they did use technology in investigations, and they did have gadgets, but they just didn't really build on the world, you know. That's honestly annoying, and I feel like that is one of the things that really weakened the series, that they didn't have changes in the like they really didn't have differences in kind in this season, and that's honestly quite bad and makes the story far less well paced. Pacing is also another really quite of a problem with this season, but not to a huge degree. It just feels rushed. And of course that's also because they didn't really allocate the time properly and they focused far more on the action and just in general, of course, they in the first season they did have a lot of cruel, like really freaking gory moments, really quite disturbing moments as well. But the difference there was that they were spread across the season and they were not just like bombarding us with this kind of disturbing imagery, and we were given always some time to calm down and just take it in and just like think about the implications and all of that. And they didn't just mess with it like that. In this season they really did have a lot of disturbing imagery as well, but it more felt like they were just using it as a shock tool, like to shock the audiences and make them just like jumpy. And I mean, it's not the worst use for that kind of horror, but it's definitely not good. Again, missed potential, because they did have some really quite interesting moments there about that. Really quite good. But, what can you do? I've been hinting at the potential of Hive Mind quite a bit now, which is really, I really like the concept of Hive Mind, and because this is quite a wide topic, to be honest. In some ways, our society can be already seen as a hive mind, but in some aspects, it's not in the way that like the Zerg or anything like that, but uh, in a way, our society, hive minds can be quite, if we are taking it at a very loose approach, our society is already a hive mind. People tend to tend to fall into, well, traditions and cultural norms, and we really do follow just normal patterns that everybody does. And we don't really want to stand out as weirdos or anything like that. And anybody who is wildly different is immediately judged, and he feels it himself inherently. And in such a way, there is an argument to be made that human society is already a hive mind. Weak one, but it is an argument. Um, at least to some sort of hive mind. And in that kind of manner, I would really have loved to see more talk about this collective psychopaths. I mean, I hold a lot of hope for a third season, but I don't know. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna keep this rant any longer. I would not recommend this season to anybody, honestly. Like, there are far better, like, it's not that the season is completely failure, but it's that it doesn't do anything so well. Like, if you want horror, watch horror. If you want gore, watch something a bit more gory. If you want something a bit more psychological, watch something else. Like, this season doesn't excel in any aspect. And for the fans of the previous season, it will be just an insult in some cases. I mean, I can see why people would like this season if they don't if they don't hold high standards. And on truth be told, I did enjoy some of the episodes, but I just don't think it's worth that much time investment to get through the more plain spots. I mean, mostly I would like, it's still like at the very least just about average show, but I would just prefer people watch something more worth their time than this. I mean, at the very least I did get some good videos out of it, I think. I did get quite angry during the recordings though, but still. Because I do have a pet peeve, and that is missed potential annoys me more than anything. And this season had a lot of it. And I think that's fair to say that that's the reason why I'm so annoyed. I can see why people enjoy this, but I personally would not recommend it, even though I did enjoy it. I would, I'd say just know what you want and get something far more focused on what you want, you know? I mean, in general, if you want something just cyberpunk though, or not cyberpunk, but like post-futuristic, uh, okay, the more I think about it, maybe there is something that good. Like, maybe this season does have some selling point, but still I'd prefer that you watch the first season over this. Unless you don't want anything psychological and just want to see a futuristic setting with the grim dark reality and have some action to it. I don't know, I suppose that's... okay, I suppose that could be the selling point for this season. But I still would not. Okay, I'm just gonna... I don't want to get any more annoyed. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope to show in the future a great day and stay awesome. I'm gonna move out. Thanks for watching.